We are live now on the wonderful series that we're starting today, Building Careers in the UPSC and Being Successful. Good morning to everyone. My name is Atul Khosla. I'm the founder and pro-vice chancellor of Shoolini University, Kasole Hills, Himachal Pradesh. And I have with me the wonderful Mrs. Charu Bali, IPS Additional DGP, Haryana, who's going to take us through her wonderful journey in the services. I also have with me Mr. Vivek Atray, my very dear friend, ex-IAS officer, motivational speaker, TEDx speaker, but more importantly for me, as I said, a very dear friend and a visiting professor at Shoolini University. So once again, friends, welcome to this wonderful new series. Hopefully, some of you will get inspired. Hopefully, 10 years down the line or 15 years down the line, you'll be sitting in the same seat as Charu ma'am. So once again, welcome and over to you, Vivek.
Thank you, Atul Khosla. It's a wonderful tie-up that we have entered into, and welcome Charu Bali ma'am for this webinar. It's a wonderful beginning because Shoolini University is absolutely my favorite university. I am a visiting professor. They have a beautiful campus, and what a lovely team you have, Atul. Also, ma'am, this Vivek IAS Career Academy in Panchkula, where I'm the mentor, you had visited us once and you had spoken so well, and the students were so inspired when you were the police commissioner at Panchkula. And absolutely a pleasure to know that now you've been promoted as additional DGP, and congratulations for that. And you're looking after crime against women, which is a very important area. So I hope you'll slightly touch upon that also in your words. I'll just take a couple of minutes to set the context. So this series has been launched for aspirants of the civil services, the UPSC exam, the state civil services, and all of you who are watching, you should be to your screens and take in everything that Charu ma'am will speak about, and try and inspire yourself and spur yourself on to work harder to achieve the heights that she has and other officers have. I myself have had a long innings in the civil services, though I resigned 10 years before my retirement age. And I feel that IAS officers and IPS officers and civil servants of all services have a lot to learn from each other, and sharing is very important. So these ideas, these anecdotes, these inspirations which come from this series will surely spur you on. And if you are a young aspirant who is doing his very best but has been not successful in the first couple of attempts or something like that, don't take that to heart. Just work harder and learn from whatever you can from the experts and the officers who are already there. So, Charu Bali ma'am, over to you for your talk, and we'll come in with some questions and interactions at the end.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Vivek. Good morning, Atul. It's a great pleasure to be part of these series. It's very nice that the university has taken this initiative for its students and other aspirants. And to get that kind of support from your educational institution is really nice, because for students, really, I mean, they're working over and above whatever that they are studying. For the civil services, they have to work harder than normal, and they have to study more than what curriculum they are following at the time in the university. So it's really wonderful that this series is here, and I'm very honored to be part of it. Uh, I, of course, have learned recently about Shoolini University. I know it's doing very well. Well, your location is wonderful, because whenever I happen to go towards Shimla, I do see the hoardings of the university. So, moving to really the civil services, I've been asked to sort of uh, encapsulate my experiences in the civil services and whatever I've seen around. So I would say it's wonderful that young people want to join the service, and they are motivated to join the civil services, and it's really wonderful. it's a very enriching experience. I would say that, it's not easy, but it's very enriching. But I guess life is not easy. And we realize that when we step out of the comfort of our universities and colleges and homes, and Indian parents are quite comforting. They take care of children for a very long time. Uh, Educational institutions are mostly very empowering, very comforting. And so, moving out towards life and doing your bit and playing your role in any culture, in any situation, is always challenging. With civil services is also no different, but the kind of satisfaction it gives is also something which helps you to continue to meet those challenges and work to overcome them. So, so I feel in civil services, especially before you plan to join it or before you work hard for it, there are a couple of questions. The first is, what is civil service to you? But the second also is, what are you to the civil service? Because this is one of those professions where you bring a lot to the service. The person who is in the service, the person who's doing the job, at any level and at any level, brings a lot to the service as well. And I guess that is why these services are still so aspirational. Uh, because the individual lot of brings a lot to the table, brings a lot of ideas, brings a lot of interpretation, brings a lot of attitudes and attributes. So it's a very tough exam. It's a grueling exam. It's going to take you at least a year to just take the exam, end to end. And of course, you have to be prepared before that. So it takes you that much time as it takes you to prepare. So it's good. I mean, it's good to understand a little bit about the service, or at least get a flavor of it before one, commits so much of time and energy to the service. So I will tell you my experience. I was a student at Punjab University, and in my final year, I took my exam, and straight from the my degree, I moved into uh, civil services. I wanted to be a lawyer. I was very clear about it, and I took the exam in the final year of my law because one of my very good friends wanted to take the exam, and she wouldn't take it all by herself. So she made me fill in the form, and here I am, and I cleared the exam, and I was why I would say, although it's been many years, it's been 25 years into the service now, and 26 years since wrote the exam, I can still I can still remember my doubts and confusions, which I had when I cleared the exam, right? And I wondered whether, it would be a good thing to join or not, whether it would be good for me or not. Since I went through that journey a little bit, so looking back, I can say that on the whole, it has been a very rewarding journey. It has been rewarding not because it has been comfortable. It's not been comfortable. Uh, like I said, there have been a lot of challenges, but it's been rewarding because it's made me grow as a human being. And I don't really think, from a very, very personal point of view, uh, for me, the services has been a wonderful opportunity to grow as a human being, to learn a lot, to see so many perspectives, to be in touch with people from all over the country, people with all sorts of educational backgrounds, all sorts of social backgrounds, uh, in the service, and interacting with all sorts of people from again, all strata of society, doing all sorts of economic activities in my profession. I don't think I could have grown so much in any other profession. Uh, Having said that, of course, there is in most. So if one contrasts, so maybe there are certain set patterns in other professions. Uh, the civil services also gives you a sort of structure, right? Obviously, I mean, you have, like Vivek just mentioned, we got promoted. So you'll get promoted if you put in a number of years, right? And you have a basic structure of the kind of salaries you get and the kind of perks you get and the kind of promotions you get. The day you join, that very day you know the date of your retirement. So it's that way. These are the things which are the known entities about the civil services. The unknown entities are what happens in between. What happens when uh, how when we go around in our job trying to execute certain actions within our career, and then what aspirations we have, how are we trying to achieve them. So this is from a personal point of view. Obviously your aspirations are linked to your performance. Then what really is performance in the civil service, right? That is one place which is a little uh, open to interpretation, because performance can be, from your point of view, an excellent performance. From a point of view of another person who may not be very happy with what you're doing, a poor performance. And which happens most of the time. You write your exam badly, you're going to get bad marks. But in the civil service, it's also that the people who are evaluating your performance, are they doing it out of self-interest, or is it public interest? And your own functioning, is it in public interest, or is it your own interest? So let's say, even if whatever you do, if that is applauded, you can't be very sure that you're doing a great thing in the civil services, right? Because there is this big thing about doing the right thing. And it is this endeavor of all civil servants, or let's say the aspiration of the service itself, like what the service expects of you is to do the right thing. How to do it, and how do you view yourself when you're doing it, that really is the entire dynamics within the service. And that is very exciting, it's very interesting. And I think if you take it in the right perspective, it can be very amusing also. you know so so that's where the churning, the dynamism, the Brownian motion of the civil service lies. In what you do is uh, has a yardstick of public service, of constitutionality, of doing the right thing. And that little element on which you can check your own actions, or somebody else could check your own actions, or somebody could ignore your actions, is really which gives the excitement to civil service. And sometimes a little more than excitement, because you have sometimes serious repercussions, but it's all within control. And the good thing is you're backed by law. You have constitutional safety of your career. And there are lots of checks and balances. There are so if so there are people within your service, your senior bureaucracy, junior bureaucracy, people around you, people in your profession, people maybe in the other service who are also interacting with you. There's the politicians who also evaluate your work. there's the public opinion, and there's the press. So there's a lot of checks and balances which work to make sure that your career remains in balance as long as you are doing the right thing, and you're doing your job well. So that is what the civil service is about. And so I mean, sometimes when I like I said about amusing, I'll just say one thing. Sometimes when I watch Yes Minister, uh, the BBC program, because at that time the British civil service was arranged like what our civil service is now. Uh, you see so many parallels from from civil services today in our country, and humor. That kind of humor can help you keep everything in perspective. Also, there's a book I must mention. This is T.R. Raghunandan, which I read last year. Was an amazing book. Everything you ever wanted to know about the bureaucracy, but were afraid to ask, I think is the full title. And that also gives a very light-hearted take on the kind of sort of red tape and bureaucratic language that or bureaucratic actions that we all get into. So little bit of this perspective, little bit of looking at things from a from different perspectives, from a diffused mode and a focused mode. That will give you a good perspective of what the services are. And in the end, I'll just say that these services, like I said, the exam is very grueling. It takes a lot of time and energy. But I think that this is a job worth doing, right? And I wish all of you the very best for whatever that you have thought of, whichever services that you want to work for. And I hope it works well for you. Right? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Charu ma'am. What an inspiring speech. I so wish when I was at IIT, I had someone like you. Who knows, I might have been in the services. As you were speaking, there were a couple of questions coming in my mind, if you allow me.
Sure.
I'm very keen to, keen to hear. We've seen these serials of these television serials where you've got these young IPS officers doing exciting things. So tell us one very difficult incident of your life when you became an SP or early days of your IPS, and one very exciting situation of your life as an IPS officer. So two questions: one difficult situation and one exciting situation.
Uh, well, that's very tough. Can I say that fiction is nothing like real life, and that, like they say, truth is stranger than fiction. Probably what the challenges one faces in real life are far more complicated and more difficult than whatever you may have seen in television. So I decidedly avoid watching crime serials on television. Although I've seen Patalok, which I think is brilliant because it also gives you a lot of, through its backstories, gives you a lot of issues of discrimination within India. However, you're
Yes.
right. I mean, I've had amazing experiences, and it's not just early on. It's like I still have them. Which is which is amazing.
So tell us one incident, ma'am. One incident.
I really don't. I mean, so I'll tell you the day I joined.
Mhm.
I joined the district. That time, since I'm in Haryana, Kata, and I was allotted Gurgaon district at that time for my training, because that's they used to give these 2-3 districts to officers for training. And I was pretty clueless. You come from the academy, all you've learned is how to drill left, right, how to wear your uniform nicely. And then, of course, they've tried to teach you management. And by the way, let me put this in: both the academies and all the academies of the civil services are wonderful experiences. I think these are experiences of a lifetime. Uh, you are exposed to the absolute best of what the country really has to offer. So for me, in the National Police Academy, the outdoor ustads, as we used to call them, are some of the best outdoor experts on their subjects like, rock climbing, weapon training, even PT. They're the best in the country. So I think that itself is a fantastic experience. I think it's all downhill from there. On a so anyway, so the first day that I landed, my SP just said, "Acha, acha, अब आप चले जाओ." So I was like, "कहाँ चले जाओ?" तो आप ये बस एक प्रदर्शन हो रहा है, आप वहाँ चले जाओ. So I obviously very daintily in the same gypsy that I had been allotted, I like climbed into it and I went and I was wondering what it was because see, it's so your officers have to really brief you properly because that is the fun in civil services that there are no fixed situations. It's not that you have to go into an office and type a letter. It could be anything. So I walked, very nonchalantly and climbed very daintily, climbed down the gypsy, and then I saw there was this, there was this bunch of police officers being faced by an absolute irate mob of probably Safai Karamcharis, and who had lots of jhadus, and they're like about to smash their heads with stones. And I mean, the moment I got down, the first stone fell, and I, ducked. And from there, I was trying to make out, what is this? And now just imagine, because you are, into the IPS. So you're the second most, I was the second most senior person in the district after the SP. Zero experience. Experience of 0 days. And so I saw from under the gypsy what it could be all about. Quickly made up my mind, and then I thought, okay, so stones are being pelted at the police officers. I'm part of the police officers. I'm the senior most. All right. So I picked up a cane shield and picked up my danda and ran to the, the head of the police force and said, "All right, I'm here. Let's just, not let these stones get down to us." And in about 5-10 minutes, I don't know how it all got sorted out. So we said we are not, and then in the meantime, we were speaking to people. I mean, it talk about learning on the job. So so that was my
It's
first day. And since
it's
then,
also about throwing you in the deep in the first day itself, right?
you don't know what you're going to encounter. So I mean, I really say in most field jobs in the civil services, especially in the police, you may go thinking, okay, anybody, and maybe an SHO also, and anybody may go thinking, okay, I'm going to wear my uniform nicely and sit in office and do a few things, and you just might end up going home after 3 days. You don't know. So so I mean, that was the first day, and I've had lots of experiences. I mean, those were so many things. It's amazing. Mob violence, people shooting at you, uh, so many things. So boy, it's one rigmarole after the other. And the amazing thing is, after 24 years of service, also last year when I was posted in Panchkula, I again got this, where you feel you've done everything, and you don't. You get an absolutely new situation, which you've never encountered. And then I had this, there were certain interest groups uh, which are there, I guess, in every place. And suddenly I got this, message, and my officers worrying that, and some of them were really worried that, for my safety, that we are hearing these things, that certain interest groups might be the cause of, let's say, lack of safety for you. So I mean, it's a day could be very, very dull, and the next very minute, there could be fireworks. You don't know.
I'm getting goose pimples listening to your stories, I'm sure. So is the audience. We've got more than 300 students right now with us, ma'am. 53 over here and the remaining on YouTube. So there's a question from Voidan King. He's first of all congratulating you and saying, so lovely to hear from a person like you. And his question is, do you think there is some sort of a characteristic in terms of personality for someone to be a fit in the civil services?
I think there is. I think there is. But I think those personality traits are actually present in all of us, right? And it's so I guess that's where training comes in, where it gives you a little bit of time to understand the kind of work that you'll be doing, right? And then you need to probably nurture those parts of your personality. So it is not something. There are certain traits which make you a better civil servant, uh, no doubt about that. And but probably those are the same traits which make you a better person to work in any field of life, and maybe a better person. And of course, some are very specific to the particular service that you are in. And those are not, difficult to nurture. They are not difficult to find in yourself. Uh, like for example, it would be great if civil servants. Most important thing I feel, you may or may not be. Nobody's going to challenge that. Is being a team player. Because so so everything works in teams, really. And although all of us, the moment something nice is done by a particular unit, we as leaders, could be me, could be anybody else, we quickly run and get the prize, right? So it could lead you to believe, right? Because there's this IAS and IPS, and top of the person, or the SDM. But really, I think civil services, maybe like most things, is all about teamwork. So if you're a team player and you know that you're part of a team, you may be the senior most, you may be the ones getting the best of the particular service, the job, the department, whatever. But you are far better off if your team moves with you and you are part of the team. So that is one of the things that I think is really important and sometimes gets overlooked in the services, right? So
So
this is
we
what.
also have, thank you, ma'am. We also have Vivek Atray with us, and Vivek also brings in years and years of experience in the IS and the Haryana services. So first of all, thank you for making this happen, Vivek. This is so amazing, this discussion. And I'm going back to my IIT days when I was very keen to join the IS or the IPS, and I don't know why I didn't. And I'm really sort of hating that moment when I decided to do an MBA, but I think I can't rewind life. I'll have to be reborn again to do that. But also, thank you, Vivek, for the offer from the Vivek Career Academy and making it happen. But question for you is, you worked with Charu ma'am. I'm sure you've known her for a while. Tell us some instance of your interaction. How does an IS work with an IPS? Is there like fight, conflict, or is it like always nice, good teamwork? We've also heard about some, you know, I would say some power struggles between the IAS and IPS. Tell us a little more about that. Tell us, how does it work typically at the administration level and also at a broader level between working with the IAS and IPS?
Thank you, Atul, and thank you, Charu ma'am. Your talk was absolutely wonderful, and the way you speak is so inspiring, and so also with that sense of humor, which is always at the background, which is really enjoyable. I must say that whatever ma'am said, a couple of thoughts. Firstly, I also went to the academy when I was to be promoted from the state service to the IAS, and it is really a joy to be there in Missouri or wherever in ma'am's academy is in Hyderabad. But the point is that the training is absolutely perfect whenever you're joining. There are a couple of things it doesn't prepare you for, as Charu ma'am said. The first day she goes into the thick end of it, and it's very tough to suddenly deal with people. So I wrote also an article on this that suddenly civil services doesn't really prepare you for people skills. And the guy walking into your office might be a sarpanch who has some naliki problem, and the next chap walking in wants to do a Greek food festival called Zapalooza. So there are total extremes which you have to handle. And as DC or SP or commissioner, you come across all kinds of people. And what Charu ma'am absolutely correctly said is, no situation is predictable. And suddenly, I mean, it's all unpredictable, whatever is happening. So coming to working with her, I don't think we actually worked together, ma'am. But I have known you and also known your family. And also, I remember when I was DC Panchkula, Mr. OP Singh had organized this run or something with where tens of thousands of people had come. And you were one of the people running, or you were part of our team. We were on the stage, and I remember all these thousands of people, and we took a selfie with you, me, and OP Singh, and Mr. and all these people. So I remember that moment. It was quite enthralling to see, and the CM was standing somewhere nearby. So it was pretty entertaining. But coming to IAS and IPS, Atul, I think it is mutual respect that is there. I'm not in the service now, so I'm not being careful about what I say. But I can just say that there is a professional rivalry, I would say, which is quite healthy. In some cases, it becomes a little cantankerous, is the word the ma'am used offline earlier. So it does become cantankerous at times. But I think largely everyone knows what their role is, and a relationship of a working relationship exists. Sometimes you agree to disagree and you get on with it. At other time, you actually become close friends. So it depends on how you are. But everyone is mature enough, barring a few exceptions, and the exceptions prove the rule to be to be effective enough and good enough together. Teamwork is the key. That's right.
Absolutely. I think that's true for most jobs, but I think especially in the services, and many times I think as civilians, we underestimate the effort. I mean, look at what's happening right now. Hats off to the police, ma'am. You guys are doing such an amazing job protecting all of us. And, I'm sure that's true in Haryana too, but when I go around in Himachal, 24 hours you're manning the streets, and it's not just the main streets but even the small streets passing through our university. I think they're being manned, so hats off to all the effort of the civil services. And that's the exciting part, and that's, we speak about it and we can see glitter in your eyes, ma'am, so clearly you enjoy your job. Amar Rao is asking a question. He is asking your opinion on opening up of the civil services for people with experiences. I think there was some additional secretary positions which got opened up. And there's a debate about, can we get experienced people into the IAS and the IPS? What are your thoughts on that, Charu?
See, this is something which will evolve as our polity and as our society evolves, right? And I just happened to like glance through just yesterday. There was this article which may have come in one of the newspapers. RIP civil services when this thing happened. This I think this decision was taken about a year and a half or something.
That's
and
right.
just my chance, I was just browsing through, just opened the WhatsApp, and I was just browsing through, and I suddenly saw that. So I don't think it's really RIP, really in that much of a hurry. And see, I mean, as far as my own opinion is concerned, I'm open-minded about it. At the larger level, my personal opinion is that as citizens, whichever service we are in, whether we are in service, outside of service, whether we are, breaking stones on the road or whatever, wherever we are, we need a better country. We need, every time we need to be looking for systems which improve the country in general, improve the citizens' experience. After all, we are also, each person is a citizen. I'm just in this office, and maybe whatever labels I have is just to do my job. It's not really, that's not what I breathe through. I'm a person, ultimately. And the citizen experience has to be good, and anything which improves the experience is great. That's number one. The number two thing is that I think there should be some kind of linkages. I really feel that, because there's certain countries which have done it very successfully. Linkages between academia and let us say industry or something like that. And it should be a two-way flow, because I think in working in administration also brings that kind of experience also must enrich, let's say, the private sector. Academia should be there. You should have people in civil services also taking time off to really give their experience to students and then coming back. Right? And that kind of thing. So that I just mentioned for Vivek. So
Thank you.
so
Thank you, ma'am.
so that's great. And however, in this particular situation, how it works out, so these are the two basic principles. But how it works out for the officers, for the people that they want, the kind of jobs that they want them to do, and how they want them to do is largely will depend on the kind of structure the government is providing for people who come from outside to do it. A very important issue in this is, I think, which needs to be addressed is, so what is the agenda that uh, you you come with, right, in the civil services? I'm not saying that the ones who are career bureaucrats, are always always adhering to the agenda of public service. I mean, in general, they are. So I guess that really matters. So I think, like I said, on the two principles of doing the best for your country and enriching various sectors of public life with experiences, across departments and sectors is a great idea. But how you implement it, what we want out of it, it will be an ever-changing position, and it will all depend on what requirements are there for that particular time and how the country is going and where is it going.
Fantastic answer, ma'am. And Aditya is asking, he's from the School of Hospitality at Shoolini. He's asking a question. I think you partly answered that, but you might want to pick it up again. That he's asking, you've achieved a lot in your life. What are the hurdles you've gone through to achieve what you have?
Oh boy, that's a whole story.
It's
I could
a long story.
write 4 books on that. No, I mean, see, like I said, that the civil services is pretty structured. If you just talk about getting your benchmarks, like your promotions, your whatever what increments, or your salary being increased, it really does happen systematically, right? So the hurdles always are vis-a-vis what the service has to offer you. So I mean, in that only the tiny little hurdle can be, are you getting, are you in the good books and are you getting your promotion before time, or are you not in such good books and you're probably getting it 6 months late? So I guess that's there. However, yes, of course, hurdles, I guess, are more, in not hurdles, but I guess there are a lot of challenges in your postings and what you're asked to do and what you're not asked to do. But even those are, because like Vivek said, everybody knows the parameters. That there are certain parameters of, let's say, which are laid down by the constitution, by the law, by the ethics of the services, which are to be done. So I guess, I mean, there have been tough times, and there are these always, you're wondering where all this is going, but not insurmountable hurdles, if I may say. Challenges, but not really hurdles.
And like they say, when you go through tough challenges, you become better and smarter as a human being, which I'm sure you'll agree with, ma'am.
100%. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely.
So, some tips on cracking the UPSC exam. Should we take so-called easy subjects like psychology and sociology and anthropology, or should we, as engineers, pick up maths and engineering? Or there's no such secret sauce. It just depends upon the focus and passion one has to crack the exam. What do you think, ma'am? If the 3 tips you have to give for the aspirants, what are they going to be?
See, like I said, I've taken the exam only once, and that was years ago. But I've been in touch with students, or people who take exams. I really, cracking an exam is really cracking the exam. The exam, I guess. So sometimes, maybe to put my children at ease, I sometimes tell them, which may be true also. I don't know. I tell them the exam is just a test of taking the exam. Sometimes. So that element is. I mean, we have to be very mercenary about it and very objective about it. That there's a certain structure to the exam. Uh, if you want to succeed in the exam, I think you need to understand the structure of the exam. You have to understand what it requires in those 3 hours, 2 hours, whatever that you're sitting down and writing. What are the skills you need, right? And you work your way backwards and see what suits you, right? So you see what suits you, which subject demands what each subject demands, and whether you are in a position to comfortably do, easily do what it does demand, and are you able to do it again and again? Are you able to work hard at it? For example, my time was about 100 years ago, it feels like, but so I graduated in law and I had done maths and economics. So,
Wow.
I took my own subjects. I took law and I took maths. And so I was in the university, I had just filled in the form, just studied a few this thing before the preliminary exam. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm like, maybe I was my general knowledge was very good, right? I was a quizzer and I had immense overall knowledge. I used to read a lot. It made it very easy for me to crack the exam without really, I didn't have that huge plan, which mostly people have and should have before they take the exam, right? So these things help me. So you can always make up for those by doing it. Like my husband, he is an IITN, and so he tells me he had this whole mindset about whether he would be able to write an essay or not, or and so he probably read a lot of books when in his final year of engineering, when he thought that he would prepare for the exams. So I took subjects which were easy for me, which I like. And in the university, there were people going around saying, "Don't take this, don't take that." But I don't think it makes sense. I think, like I said, an exam is an exam. You have to see the parameters, surgical strike kind of thing. You have to see what is good, how the exam is structured, how is it going to make you comfortable. Are you going to like be able to reproduce and write so much for 3 hours? Then working backwards, are you able to study that much to be able to reproduce? Right? Will you be able to study that subject so much in depth that you can answer these kind of questions? And I think the good strategy is to always work your way backwards, right? And do what you are going to be really, really good at. Work to your strengths.
So fantastic. I think we've got just 3 to 5 minutes left. Vivek, any questions or thoughts from your end for Charu ma'am?
Yes, yes. I must say that ma'am is so at ease on screen. Ma'am, you could have had many alternative careers, I'm sure. But I'm sure the IPS is very proud to have you and Mr. Kirwar. And even the IAS would have been proud to have you. I mean, the way you are in both the services, I think you've done so well here, but you could have done extremely well in any place you went to, if I can pay you compliments.
And that's
But I
words.
Yes, thank you. But I also have a question, as Atul has asked me to ask. So, being the spouse of an IPS officer, and he has a spouse who's an IPS officer, so basically being married to an officer. So, does it lead to any piquant situations at home at times, any professional rivalry, or any sharing of ordeals or tensions, and or do you keep them aloof from the other? I mean, what is it like being married to someone in the same service?
Married to the mob, you mean? Yeah, I mean, that's an important question actually, because uh, so that also comes to what we were speaking about earlier, also offline, about the role of women, right? And so of course, like uh, as I got empowered, I mean, over the years, let me tell you, on the same issue, we have very divergent ideas, right? And we say it very clearly. But the good thing is, because values are common and shared, so it's just like one of those arguments about whether you should keep the pen like that or like that. And we're both arguing, and the ultimate, thankfully, the values are common. If your values are common, then it's easier. And of course, if you're in the same profession, then you really get under the other person's skin. But it also, I think, it's a good opportunity, Vivek, to touch upon the role of women also. That how, and this is with the with due regard to everybody. Everybody is very good, all men and women are all very good, so to speak. But sometimes what happens is that women get uh, the moment they get married and they have children, they get pushed into the role of a mother and a wife and a homemaker, right? Which I think is something I wish all young men and women are listening to this, and I hope they take it upon themselves to make sure that whether they enter this profession or any other profession, if they are part of a family, where I feel a couple is also a family, they must contribute equally to not just the physical work but the emotional turmoil, right? The worries and the stresses that come with having a household and a family, right? And naturally, what happens is, because of these strong gender roles that men and women are expected to play all over the world, of course, not just in India, it becomes it just naturally men and women, just naturally take up the track of one being more focused on the career, or इस लड़के का career बहुत important होता है, and girls try to see, okay, my family is comfortable or not, right? So that could take that much away from either of them, right, as human beings. And at this point of time, we have so much experience now, in understanding how gendered our roles and our thinking becomes, and so we can guard against it. And especially when students, young men and women, are so highly educated, then it makes it easier for them to ponder upon these questions, right? So that issue, I felt, in not just my career in the civil services. I've also seen it in the corporate sector. In fact, in the corporate sector, if I may say, all the women who started with me, um, I don't think a single one, and these are women who are IIT MBAs, right? Like Atul, right? I don't think a single one has moved on their regular career path after their first child, which is slightly sad,
That's
right?
tough.
I so agree with you, Charu ma'am. I think it's a big issue in corporates. In fact, the government is much more empathetic to the working woman, I think, compared to the corporate sector.
Right.
And I think one of the things which a lot of, I would say, quality and good corporates are looking at is ensuring that there are careers given. I'm talking about real careers, not side careers given to women. And I mean, banks like ICICI have been very successful, right? I mean, they've got CEOs continuously who've been women. So it's the culture of the organization. At Shoolini, we try a lot. We have taken it upon ourselves that we, in our leadership, we should have more and more women. I think it's very important. By the way, in academia, ma'am, you'll see that people lose out, women lose out over time. While there are lots of women in college, there are lots of them in the early years,
Not
but
in
it's,
important jobs.
yeah, you won't see many vice chancellors, you won't see many deans who are women. So that's, I think, something which we all need to change. I'm so glad you brought it up. So I'm very tempted to ask this question, Vivek, to you: IAS or IPS?
IAS for me. Although my dad
Okay.
was an IPS officer, but I think IAS gives you more variety, more depth of spectrum. But I value the IPS a lot, as I said. So, ma'am would
So
have
this is
another
a,
answer.
I would have
I'm
another
not
answer.
going.
Say
I'm not
I
going to
would.
ask. We know ma'am's answer, so I'm not going to ask that question to her because I know she's going to say IPS.
I wouldn't actually. I have realized that in the services. See, so batchmates from all these years and all, each service gives you such a wide spectrum. For example, I've worked in the Unique Identification Authority also, and I worked for the Planning
Okay.
Commission. And somehow, working in the police is a completely different experience. And although I have I've worked in different places. I've gone to deputations, and even within the service, I've done a slightly odd jobs, but I really, something which mixes the elements of all services. I really think, the kind of inputs that you get from working as a police officer, right, is something special. I mean, it's an additional penetration into a certain kind of thing, which is, but also, in the IAS you have such fantastic variety and you can do so much. And in the foreign service, you get another skill set, which you would not get otherwise. Why I say IPS, I'm not saying it's the best job ever or whatever. I mean, but for me, it turned out very good. So I think for me, although I was a little, like I said, I was wondering where was I going? When I wrote my exam and I cleared my exam, and I was quite surprised. And I joined the Masuri Academy because that's where you go initially. And I was very happy, though Masuri ke baad dekhenge, kind of stuff. But I think it's been a great fit for me. It gives you, for example, the IPS gives you the chance to call a spade, right? Or the danger is you can end up calling a spade a shovel, which is a different thing, which I don't think is a great thing. You may lose your. But on the other hand, let's say the other extreme is foreign service, which really gives you an idea on what Vivek was saying, people skills. You need yourself to be heard, and you don't want the other person to get angry about it or make an international issue out of it. So so every service gives you its own satisfaction and skill sets. And I'm glad you brought this up, Atul, because and you spoke about the rivalry and all, and which is superior and inferior. I mean, of course, there is a hierarchy. IAS probably is the most aspirational. I would have thought IFS is, because it makes you go to all sorts of places, but you never know. But and there were certain batchmates of ours, for some strange reason they had IPS as the first preference. So to each their own. But I think each service is a wonderful experience and gets you those special characteristics. It gives you a general understanding, and there are those specific skill sets which are built in each and every service, I think.
Wow, so wonderful. There's a saying by Confucius that if you choose a job you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And I can see that when you speak, ma'am. You're so passionate about your job. And I think that's the beauty of the services. Rohit is a big fan of yours, Vivek. Rohit Sharma is saying, I'm a big fan of yours. And he also has a question, Vivek. He's saying, and I think being a writer, you might want to pick it up. He's saying, how do we write effective essays? We do know there should be an introduction, a conclusion, but what else should we do? So just 1 minute on this one, Vivek. I know we're running short of time, but I thought I'd bring it up.
Tough to answer this in 1 minute, but I would say that work on your vocabulary, work on your expression, practice writing short answers first, and then develop your essay writing skills. You have to write one essay every day, and only then you can get somewhere in a few months. I think a lot more can be said, but I saw a question about interview skills, essay skills. I think they'll have to contact us, Atul, through our numbers, which are given on the comments section.
Absolutely.
The Vivek IAS Career Academy Counseling or Shoolini University, we have some common numbers given. So you must get in touch and find out more about these skills once you are ready.
So Divya has already got inspired, ma'am. Divya Patyal is saying, my dream is now to become an IAS officer. Somehow she didn't write IPS, but I guess they go hand in hand when you speak about the UPSC. So good luck to you, Divya. I think we're coming to an end, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful discussion. I think before I close, I always do this, Charu ma'am. I'm going to request you to speak your last thoughts, but you're only allowed one sentence. So one sentence of your last thoughts to the audience.
I think my last thought is, whatever profession you do, just don't lose yourself as a person. Remain yourself first, nurture yourself, and then, be that nurtured person who's doing a particular profession. Right?
So beautifully said. I think if you're happy with the job, you'll be successful wherever you are. I think that's what you're hinting at. Vivek, your last thoughts.
My thanks to Charu ma'am. I think she's spoken so wonderfully well. I would say that all those watching, if you can emulate her in her sensibilities and the way she speaks, the way she thinks, it's very clear that there are some very superior officers within the same service. So, ma'am, compliments to you.
That's so kind of you. I think I mean, coming from Vivek, who's himself been such a wonderful officer, I'm quite slightly embarrassed, but thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure interacting on the civil services, and it's given me a bit of time to actually think about it, about my own journey. And for that, I would thank both of you very specially. Thank you so much, and wish all the students who are listening in all the very best in whatever career they choose or they end up doing. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Charu ma'am. Hopefully, Corona will get over and we can invite you in person at Shoolini. Would love to hear and meet you. And of course, I'd love to come and meet you and have a lovely cup of tea with you at some point of time. Thank you, audience. You've been a wonderful audience. We loved this discussion. I think one of the best I've had. Like I said, I'm actually going back into my memories when I really did want to join the IAS. I know my mom is going to call me after this and scold me why I never prepared for the civil services. She always had that dream, Vivek, and you know my mother, right? So thank you. Hakuna Matata. Don't worry, be happy. Corona will go away. Use this as an opportunity to prepare for your future, students. Prepare for the civil services. It's an amazing profession. You'll have to work hard, give 3 years or 2 years of your life. I think 15 hours a day or 10 hours a day is good. And if you get into the services, you'll have amazing life ahead of you. So once again, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Vivek. And we look forward to meeting in person. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you, Charu.